this comes in advance of likely global sales data tomorrow, right? But what we're learning from sources, we broke this story of our colleagues in Asia, is the kind of sense of who's steering the ship right now at Tesla.
Yeah, I think this is interesting in light of the last few months, right? When April rolled around, we saw that Tesla had really disappointing first quarter deliveries. In May, Bloomberg spoke with Elon Musk at an economic forum where he said, you know what, sales have turned around. We don't expect to see any shortfall in sales. I think as the quarter progressed, it became clear that was premature, at least to put it charitably, that Tesla sales had in fact continued to decline. The expectation among analysts is, again, for another, call it in the ballpark of 12 to 13% drop, similar to the first quarter. And, Tesla, it does seem now is looking to sort of shake things up with Musk, It certainly seems dismissing Afshar and also taking over those reporting lines from him.
Craig, the irony here, though, is that many would say Elon is the problem and why sales fell, in Europe at least. Maybe not so much in Asia, where it's a competition issue in particular. But meanwhile, the issue, the focus he had in politics that has so hurt his sales is now biting him back from a White House perspective, it feels like.
I think that's a perfectly good sort of counter argument to make here, right? In that in Asia, we have not necessarily seen the blowback that we've seen in the U.S. or Europe, where it doesn't necessarily matter all that much to a consumer in China how close Elon Musk is to Donald Trump necessarily. But it does matter when Musk is exerting himself over the U.S. government to American car buyers. And over here in Europe, Trump is not particularly popular. He's also inserted himself into European politics, most notably, I would say, in Germany, getting behind the AfD, which, of course, is a very sort of polarizing party, to say the least, not only in that country, but in Europe more broadly. And, those sort of combination of factors, I think, there was a real sort of question earlier this year, how much of this is a backlash against Musk and how much is it, things going on within the business, the changeover to a refreshed Model Y. I think we're seeing more indications that it's not just the Model Y and that the Musk factor is looming large here as well.
Shares have paired some of their decline, now down 5%. The session low was 7.7% decline. We're just showing this chart, Craig, that amidst all of the headlines, Tesla's market value's fallen below $1 trillion. Let's go back to the political. Kayleigh was explaining the tension between Musk and President Trump around the big, beautiful bill and the issue of EV subsidy. Elon Musk has been very consistent, to his credit, that actually he'd be fine if America did away with subsidies, because I think my understanding of it is that he feels Tesla has a lower cost base and more pricing power. And if subsidies were to go away, which the president's statements contradict, it would be more beneficial to Tesla than it would be other American automakers.
Yeah, and I think our colleague in Bloomberg Opinion, Liam Denning, has probably made the most convincing counter-argument to that, right? That this is not a matter of people deciding, whether to buy a Tesla or another electric vehicle. That there's also the potential for consumers to, decide, rather than buy a Tesla, I may buy a combustion car from say a General Motors or a hybrid from a Toyota, right? And so it's not necessarily the case that a consumer is only going to buy an electric vehicle and is sort of stuck on that. I do think that subsidies, while Musk, absolutely to your point, he's been quite consistent over the years in saying, do away with subsidies, Tesla will be fine. I think it's hard to sort of take him at his word in saying that, when we're not talking about a small amount of money for the consumer in the U.S. We're talking about up to $7,500 for the buyer who if this is taken away, as the Senate Republicans want to expedite this, phasing it out in September, that's a huge deal for Tesla. And it's not just that it, the company is sort of, coming under target from Republicans. It's also, things like funding for manufacturing tax credits, ZEV credits, regulatory credits that the company sells to other automakers. So this is a much broader sort of offering of subsidies or forms of government support that would really hurt Tesla if they were to go away.